Angels are divine beings who are famous for being very beautiful and kind. However, there are some angels that are macabre and not so kind, such as the angel made of tongues and eyes, and even the angel of death. In this video, you will see the 7 most bizarre angels in the Bible. If you like this type of content, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video because you have no idea how much this helps me, okay? Thanks in advance, okay? Cherubs are a very famous class of angels, most likely because they say that Satan or Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, was part of this class before his fall from heaven. This Judeo-Christian classification is somewhat curious because originally the form of these angels was very similar to other creatures from other mythologies because their form was a man's body or a woman's with an animal's head, which reminds us, for example, of the gods of ancient Egypt, or even the Sphinx, which is a winged being with an animal's body and a man's head, or even the Lamassu from Sumerian mythology, which is basically a sphinx. It would have the body of a bull and a man's head and a pair of wings. If you are interested in books about mythology, angels, demons, or any other type of book, take a look at the description that has an Amazon link, and there you will find several, okay? And just by using the link, you will be helping me a lot. The classification of angels is quite confusing, depending on where you look. A class can be down there, then up there. Anyway, it varies a lot. But according to Christianity, the cherubs would be in second place of the most powerful class of heaven, losing only to the seraphim. However, in other cultures that do not consider the seraphim as an angel, the cherubs would be in first place. The word cherub comes from cherub from Hebrew, which they say would be a variation of the word kiribu or caribou from Assyria, which means powerful, great, usually appearing next to the creature Lamassu, which I have already mentioned here before. Cherubs nowadays appear as very cute and pretty babies, but originally they were not even close to that. This is due to paintings portraying them in this manner. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, cherubs appear as guardians of the Garden of Eden. They are holding a flaming sword, and these are two things that don't really match with a baby, right? I don't know about you, but if I saw a child as a guard of something, I wouldn't feel the slightest fear. After driving out the man, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword that moved, guarding the way to the tree of life. They can also be described as creatures that stay under God's throne and kind of transport him to various places. And they have the appearance of a being with several heads, like an eagle's head, a bull's head, a man's head, and a lion's head. I looked, and behold, a stormy wind came from the north, a great cloud with fire swirling in it, a glow around it, and in the middle of it there was a thing, like the color of amber, that came out of the middle of the fire. And from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and each one had 4 faces, and each one of them 4 wings, and their feet were straight feet, that the soles of their feet, like the soles of a calf's foot, shone like the color of polished copper, and they had hands of a man under their wings, on all 4 sides. And so all 4 had their faces and their wings were joined one to another. They did not turn when they walked, each one went straight forward. And the likeness of their faces was like human faces. And on the right side, all 4 had lion faces, and on the left side, all 4 had ox faces. And all 4 also had eagle faces. Thus were their faces. Their wings were spread out above, each one had 2 wings joined one to another. The 2 covered their bodies. Seraphim is another Judeo-Christian angelic classification. And even in these 2 visions, the seraphim is seen differently. For Christians, a seraphim is the highest angelic rank, the angels closest to God. In Judaism, it would be more of an intermediate issue. Seraphim are bright angels, and extremely bright, so much so that it seems like they are on fire. And that's where their name comes from, since seraph would mean something more or less like flame, fire, something like that. Although in Christianity the seraphim is a type of angel, according to other views, The seraphim does not fit into this category since angel means messenger, and a seraph has the sole and exclusive mission of looking at and praising God. These beings had 3 pairs of wings, and there are some explanations for this. One of them says that obviously one of these pairs is used for flying, another is to cover their eyes so they do not look directly at God, and the other covers their feet. In the book of Isaiah, there is a mention of these angels praising and singing to God. In the year that King Uzziah died, I also saw the Lord sitting on a high and lofty throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Seraphim were above him. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 they covered their faces, and with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. And they cried out to each other, saying, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the thresholds of the doors moved at the voice of him who cried out. And the house was filled with smoke. Then I said, Woe is me, for I am lost, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. My eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. However, one of the seraphim flew to me, carrying in his hand a live coal, which he had taken from the altar like Athens. And with the coal he touched my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips, and your iniquity has been taken away, and your sin purged. Interesting that there are some theories also that say that the seraphim in reality would be ancient gods who became angels. Samael's identity remains ambiguous, as it is uncertain whether he is an angel or a demon. However, even when he appears as an angel, he has a somewhat macabre function, which is the angel of death, a function that several other angels can also have. Samael can also appear as one of the many names of Satan, being the prince of demons and placed as a tempter and accuser. This even matches the meaning of his name, which Samael would be more or less the poison of God. But this meaning can also be related to the function that God gave him, to throw the poison on the earth when the time came and take the men from the earth. Whether as a leader of demons or as an angel of God, they say that Samael appears flying through the sky as if he were an eagle and surrounded by what would be souls or demons. And they also say that he has 12 wings. Abaddon is another entity in limbo, whose true nature as a demon or angel remains unknown. He is usually associated with destruction and the abyss. In fact, it is also a way to refer to the abyss itself. Abaddon doesn't have a physical description, but it must certainly be very bizarre, because in the book of Revelation in the Bible, he appears as the leader of those locusts with lion heads and scorpion tails that came to torment humanity. The appearance of these locusts was like horses prepared for war. On their heads was a kind of crown with golden reflections. Their faces were like the faces of men. Their hair was like that of women, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. Their chests seemed wrapped in iron, and the noise of their wings was like the noise of many horse-drawn chariots. Rushing to war, they had tails similar to scorpions, with stingers, and the power to inflict pain on men for 5 months. They have as king the angel of the abyss, his name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek, Apollyon. In other apocryphal texts, Abaddon is portrayed as the angel who sought Jesus after the crucifixion. But if you want to know more about this story, more details about Abaddon, I have a video just about him here on the channel. It will be on the card, around here, and in the description. But Satan is a demon, not an angel. Calm down, you will understand, okay? Well, anyway, I think everyone already knows that Satan, at least at a certain point, was part of the heavenly choir, right? But there's a slight difference between Satan in the Old Testament and him in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, at times we can get the idea that Satan would actually be a kind of function, not a specific being. Satan would be a position given to some angel from heaven to test humanity, as, for example, happens in the story of Job, when it says that Satan was in the presence of God. In fact, in this case, it would not be Satan, but a Satan who was in the presence of God. And he began to test Job's faith, and just having an angel with this function is already quite bizarre. However, this is more in the Old Testament itself, because in the new one we can already perceive that there really is a character named Satan. He would be that same serpent that tempted Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit and caused them to be expelled from heaven. However, for me, the most curious appearance of Satan is in the book of Revelation, where he appears in a very different way from other angels. I at least have never seen another angel with such a different transformation, which is him in the form of a dragon. In this way, he ends up sweeping even some stars from the sky, and then ends up being defeated by Michael and his army. And there was a battle in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but they did not prevail, nor was their place found in heaven any longer. He was thrown down, the great dragon, the ancient serpent, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And there was a loud voice in heaven saying, "Now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night." Sandalfon is an angel who has a name of Greek origin, which would mean something more or less like co-brother. Therefore, then, he was practically the twin brother of the grand and famous angel Metatron. And just like Metatron, Sandalfon was also classified as a Seraphim, although he could also be called an archangel at times. Sandalfon is an angel present in the folklore of Jewish mysticism, and there he is described as an angel so gigantic that it would take almost a 500-year journey to traverse his entire body. And a certain story also says that the angel Redarniel took Moses to meet Sandalfon, but the flames of his body were so strong and so bright that God himself had to appear in front of Moses to calm him down. Such was his fear. Sandalfon is also responsible for tying some crowns on God's head. These crowns would represent the praise of various angels. Sandalfon also seems to represent a bit of the opposite of Metatron. As Metatron is an angel that symbolizes more light, Sandalfon can also represent a bit of darkness. He is also responsible for choosing the sex of babies while they are still in their mother's womb. And just as Metatron can be Enoch, Sandalfon can also be Elijah. And if you want to know a lot more about Metatron and Sandalfon, I have a whole video about the two here on the channel. It will be in the card and description. Azrael would be the archangel of death, mainly in the Islamic tradition, where in fact he is the angel of death. Even his name, Azrael, comes from Azrael, which is an Arabic name used both in Sikhism and Islam to refer to the angel of death. However, in the Quran, Azrael never appears with his name, but rather with the name of Malak al-Maute. The meaning of Azrael would be something like, "he who helps God." And despite his function being quite scary, if you take his name literally, he is nothing more, nothing less than an angel who just does his job. However, despite being the archangel of death, of course, Azrael can't just go around killing whoever he wants, right? He always follows the will of God. According to Jewish mysticism, Azrael would appear as the angel in the third heaven in one of his many forms, and also appears having 4 faces and 4,000 wings. And his entire body is made up of tongues and eyes, and the number of these parts is equal to the number of people living on earth. There were some men who, when shaving their hair, always left a part, a tuft there, so that when the time came, Azrael could grab them and pull them to heaven. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel.